Hey, it's Denise from loom.com, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make these really easy boot cuffs. If you've never loom knitted before, don't worry about it. It only takes 2 stitches, and I'm going to show you how to do them both. So get your yarn, get your loom, hook, and let's start the project. I'm going to be using medium worsted weight yarn, and so I'm going to knit with 2 strands of yarn as if they were one. But if you're using chunky or super chunky, and you can tell by the numbers on the back, this is a 5, super chunky is a 6, and this medium is a 4. If you're going to use anything over a 4, you only need to use 1 strand of yarn to knit. Let's start by making a slip knot. Take your working yarn and wrap it around your index finger till you have a cross like this. Put your thumb on that cross. Take the loop off your index finger, take that working yarn and push it through to create a new loop, and then grab that yarn and pull. See, I'm pulling this string, and that's going to create a slip knot. Take that slip knot and you're going to put it on your anchor peg if you have one. If you don't worry about it, just put it on the first peg. Secure your work. Now take this working yarn, this is the short piece, here's the one that you're working with, and bring it behind your pegs and wrap the peg. And you're going to do this around the whole loom. I'm back at the front of the loom, and now here's my first peg. It already has 1 loop on it, and now I'm going to put a loop over it in order to work, but this time I'm going to only half wrap my peg and hold it with my fingers here behind, and I'm going to create a U because my first stitch is a U wrap knit stitch, so I don't want to wrap the whole peg. And then I'm going to take that loop that's on the peg and I'm going to wrap it. I'm going to bring it up and over the peg to the back, and that's my first knit stitch. Okay, same thing. I'm going to come to the next one, and I'm going to take my working yarn, bring it to the front, half wrap that peg, hold my yarn, take my hook and grab that bottom loop and bring it up over and pull this just a little, not a lot. Bring it back to the front and do the same thing. And I'm going to do that to every peg on my loom. I'm back here at my first peg again, and now I've done my first row, which is my knit, and now I'm going to do a purl. And to do the purl stitch, I'm going to take the working yarn and put it under that peg, right? There's my first peg. I'm going to put it under. Let me take this off so you can see me. You can remove yours after you do this second row. You can go ahead and take this slip knot off. I'm taking it off now so you can see me better, and just push it to the back like that. Okay. Alright, so we're here at that first peg. And like I said, don't take yours off yet. I'm taking mine off only because I want you to see better, but hold on to yours until you have at least 3 rows. So I did row 1, now I'm going to do row 2, and I'm going to put the working yarn under the loop that's on my peg. I'm going to take my hook, push it through, and lay it on that working yarn and scoop that yarn up and create a new loop. I'm going to take the old loop off and put that new loop on, and then pull the working yarn, and it'll close up and make a new loop on there. Okay, so let me show you again. I put it in through the loop that's on my peg, place it right on that working yarn, and turn the hook up to create a new loop. Take that old loop off, bring that new loop on, pull. That's a purl stitch. And we're going to work on every one of the pegs with a purl stitch. And however works best for you to pull that loop off your peg, this is how I do it. People have tons of different ways of doing the same thing. So you're going to eventually find what works for you. When I'm demonstrating, this is how I do it, but when it's on my lap, I do it a different way. So you got to find a rhythm that works for you, if you know what I mean. Okay, I did my last purl stitch, and that means I did 2 rows. My first was a U-wrap knit stitch, and now I just finished my purl stitch. So I have 2 rows on my loom right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to repeat rows 1 and 2 9 more times, okay? And that's going to give us this border right here. If you find that this border is too thin for you or too thick, then adjust the number of knit and purls that you do. But please make the last row that you do, make sure that it is a purl stitch row, which is the last one that we just did now. And remember that when you wear your boot cuffs, when you put them on, they stretch. And so what you're seeing here as a thick border actually will come and be a bit smaller when you stretch it to put it on, okay? So for my boot cuff, I'm going to repeat these 2 rows 9 more times for a total of 10 rows, and then I'll be back. I finished knitting this border top of the cuff, and like I said, I did 10 rows, 5 of knit and 5 of the purl, and now I'm ready to move on to this part of the cuff. And this is done with a knit stitch, but it is an E-wrap knit stitch. And let me show you how that's done. That's actually the easiest of all the knit stitches, and it's the one most beginners start with. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to wrap every peg. I'm back at the front, and all of my pegs have 2 loops. A loop on the bottom and one on the top. And now this is the last one that I wrapped, so it will be the first one that I knit. And for the E-wrap, all I'm going to do is, now that I have 2 loops on each peg, is I'm going to take the bottom loop and I'm going to knit over the top. And then just keep doing that. That's an E-wrap. That was row number 11, and I'm going to continue to E-wrap my pegs and knit off like I just did for 14 more rows. And because I'm using this E-wrap stitch and 2 strands of yarn, or in your case if you're using chunky or super chunky, you can more or less give an estimate that for every 4 rows that you knit, you're going to create an inch of knitting. And in this particular garment, just remember that when you put it on, it's going to stretch and it's going to shrink a little. So give yourself, I would say, about 5 to 6 rows for every inch that you want your cuff to be when you're actually wearing it, when you put it on. So in my case, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to knit 14 more rows for a total of 15, because I'm going to make this cuff kind of like a short cuff. Okay, so go ahead and knit as many rows as you want, and then let's come back so that we can do our edge here and finish off our cool project. I finished my 15 rows, so now my top border is done, and so is my additional rows, and now it's time to bind off. And so I come here to my first peg, and I'm going to wrap that peg and knit off. And then I take that peg off and I'm going to put it on the one to its left. And I'm going to tighten this just a little bit, not a lot. We want it a bit loose, okay? You want to try to do this part. You want your loops to be loose, okay? You're going to take it off, and then you're going to come here and you're going to place it on the empty peg, okay? And we're going to come back and do the same thing again. You're going to go to the peg on the right. You're going to wrap that peg. You're going to knit. You're going to take that loop off the peg. Bring it over to the right. Tighten it just a very, very, very little bit. Take the bottom loop over the top and knit. And then take that loop off the peg and put it on the empty one. And tighten just a little bit. I'm here on peg 10 and I'm continuing my bind off. But you want to give this enough stretchy room. So here on this 10th peg, right, we have 24 pegs. On peg number 10, or it can even be even peg number 12 to get you right in the middle. I'm going to do 10, but you can do 12 only because I shift mine a little to the middle. So either peg 10 or 12, you're going to give it an extra wrap here before you go to the next one. Usually you go to the one on the right, you wrap, right? That's the next step. But here, just to give it a little more length, a little more give, we're going to wrap this peg again, right? And then come here and wrap the peg next to it and continue with the bind off. Okay, we wrap that one, take it to the left, tighten a little, knit over, and then get this one. And another thing I want you to do when you take them off is bend it sideways like this. I think one of them I put in this way, but that's really not the best way because you want it to look nicer. So those loops, when you take them off your peg, go ahead and make them so that you're pulling it off the peg and you're giving it like a flat look. Okay, so you take it off the peg and you turn it and you're placing it on the peg like this. This is not vital, it's just a thing to make it just look a little better. I find that the loops look nicer, see, when you do that. So let me do it one more time. I'm going to wrap the peg to the right, knit off, take the loop off, put it on the peg to the left, knit off, and take this peg off and put it on the empty peg. And then we're going to continue, okay? So keep going until you get back to the front of the loom. And every peg is done except for that second to last. Okay, we're going to continue with the bind off. Okay, so I'm putting my loop on that second to last, and just like we did when we went midway through the loom, again we're going to go ahead and wrap that peg one more time. Okay, and now we're going to take it off and bring it over And this is the last peg, and you're going to knit off. And then if you look at your work, you're going to see that this has like a lot of length between one and the other. So we're going to fix that by getting a crochet hook, and we're going to finish this off and weave in our ends. So this is your last peg. Go ahead and cut your yarn. Okay, so you're going to take that last loop off and you're going to put it on your crochet hook. And you're going to come here, right to this spot here, and you're going to put your crochet hook in that section and pull on the working yarn. It should only be just a little bit because you should have cut some off. And bring it through, and that little hole right there, you can see where I brought it in. See that? That was that loop that was sitting right next to this one on the loom. So you're putting your crochet hook through there, take your working yarn and pull it all the way through. And then take the working yarn again and put it through that loop and out. And then you make a knot. Now you're going to turn your work over, and we're going to weave in the ends. This is how you finish your work, okay? You're going to take that tail, which is the last of your work, and you're going to come here and we're going to weave it in. You know, it's how you hide your work, where you started and finished it, and of course it doesn't. Okay. Try to get in between the knitting, because you want these to be hidden. You don't want them to show up. So you want to get like in between, so that when you put your crochet hook, it's on the inside and you can't really see it on the outside. And then you grab your working yarn and you feed it through. And then you're just going to do this a few times. And then you can just cut it off, okay? And that's going to finish off that bottom part. Okay? Isn't that a nice edge? It's a good bind off. Alright? Now we're going to do a little touch-up work right here at the top. Okay, like most loom knitting work, and this one you don't see it as much because I worked with 2 strands of yarn as one. Your loops are not as big, and in fact I could just leave this as it is and it wouldn't look bad at all. However, I do want to tighten up these loops just a little bit, not too much, because if I tighten it up too much, it's not going to have that stretch. So you have to be very careful with loom knitting and certain stitches that don't give you a lot of elasticity, and this is one of them. Unlike the rib stitch, which will, you know, have some give, this one doesn't have as much. And so when you go to pull these, which is what we're going to do to clean them up a little bit, you want to not overdo it. You want to do just a little bit, just enough to give you a nice edge, but still have that stretch. And so what you're going to do is that you're going to find the opposite direction in which your what is this called? The opposite direction of where your slip knot is. So how you find that is that you pull on it. This is the slip knot. And when you pull on it, you'll see where it's, in what direction it's going. So it's right there. See? That's where my slip knot is. It's right here. So that's not where I want to start pulling. I want to start pulling over here instead of this way. So I'm going to start in this direction because my slip knot is going in that direction. Okay, and I'm going to need that in order to finish off. So I start with the one next to it, which is pretty okay. It's not too bad off. So I'm just going to pull just a little bit on it. And you can get carried away with this, so you have to be really careful. It can backfire on you and you can ruin your work. So you're going to be really careful, and you're just pulling a little bit. And what you do is find out where that string is, and then just pull on it just a little bit. See, this one's right here, so I'm going to pull on it just a little bit right here. You got to find out where it is. There it is. You see, when I pull on it, it shows me exactly where it is and where it went. And so I pull a little bit on there and a little bit here. A little bit there and a little bit here. And this is tricky. If you're not comfortable with it, don't do it. And if you're going to do it, first test it on something you don't care about. You know, that it's not a big deal, because it can get ruined. You see that I'm just, I pull a little, and then I follow that string, and it's going to tell me where it's going, so I can pull. But I'm only going to pull a little bit because I can't get carried away. And I just keep pulling, and I keep pulling. And see how it's getting neater? As I pull, you see that the work gets neater, and I do have some extra string. And I just keep doing that. Just look at where the string was and where it is now, and then just keep pulling. Again, making sure that you don't pull so much where you don't have stretch. And still, I'm only pulling a little bit, and you see how much string there is. A lot of string. Okay? Just continue. And this can get a little tricky, like right now. Okay. So this is where the slip knot is. Just pull the last of it. And here's the last of the string. See where it was curving? You kind of have to let that knot go loose. And then there you are. Okay? So now you have a nice edge on the top. And you're going to take this here and get your crochet hook. And it's on this loop right here, so you're going to take your crochet hook on the loop that's next to it and grab it and bring it in to the inside, weave it in, okay. That's the end of this tutorial. You have now a nice boot cuff, and you know how to customize it. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section under this video, or on the website lumahat.com, or on our Facebook page. Until our next project, you guys have a good one. Ciao!